Hello, Scorpios. Zodiac reading. Sunday, the 26th. You have managed to survive a day that some people find testing. Venus and Pluto both connect well to the moon today, and you should feel emotionally stable. Take some time this evening to unwind, detach from others, and process your thoughts alone. Listen to your dreams tonight. Now, normally, this would be where I would cut it off, but as I promised, welcome to Cringe of the Month. And I swear, I am once again telling you, do not watch this after the 25 or 26 minute mark. 6, you freaks. 26 second mark, sorry. After I'm done, after I put that book down, if you have not seen this movie, click off now. I'll wait 10 seconds. Okay. Warning, this is a Cringe of the Month of Spider-Man No Way Home. I am not wanting to spoil this movie, and I'm not going to be the guy who does spoil this movie. So again, click off if you did in the 10 seconds. You've been warned multiple times through the past 2 days. So, Spider-Man No Way Home, I will be honest, was the first Tom Holland Spider-Man movie I was ever hyped to see. And I will admit it was because of, one, it definitely looked better than the other movies, and two, Dr. Octopus. I'm positive a lot of people watched that movie because of the OGs returning, Goblin and Doc Ock. For us originals, and for Garfield fans, Sandman's an OG, the Lizard and Electro, who looks much better than he did in The Amazing Spider-Man 1. The movie opens up as it probably ended with Far From Home, with Mysterio saying who Spider-Man is. And as it would, Peter Parker becomes the most famous and most hated man in the world. Becoming famous, but also becoming hated because people are calling him a murderer when the drones killed Mysterio, being accused by the government and FBI, stuff like that. Aunt May, MJ, and Ned are taken into the custody of the government for questioning, saying they are basically fucked. So Peter Parker, after him, MJ, and Ned all also have applied for MIT, plus high school not exactly being that much easier, with also a little thing with Flash saying he's now the best friend of Peter Parker. Failed to get into their dream school of MIT. So, desperate and knowing that it's the right thing to do because his friends do not need to suffer for this, for knowing who he is, Peter goes to Doctor Strange to see if he can help. Wanting first to go back in time, but learning that he no longer has the Time Stone. So, Doctor Strange comes up with the idea of making a spell that would make people forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. But Peter, being also an egomaniac, not a full-fledged egomaniacal person like Flash, but he is a little selfish, which I do appreciate since what I know about the comics is he is a little selfish. He wants the spell to constantly be altered so certain people remember that he is Spider-Man. I think he should have just had Aunt May remember. That's it. Or even just his girlfriend remember that he's Spider-Man. But no, he keeps asking for more than what the spell can deliver. Turns out, Peter didn't know you could talk to the people at MIT. That actually is a very relatable thing, since I posit not a lot of people think to call the school to try to get a second shot at getting into the college. Doctor Strange essentially throws him out of the Sanctum Sanctorum. Peter goes to the bridge to find, with a little help from Flash, after promising to swing him to school for 2 weeks and agreeing to be saying he's his best friend, goes to a bridge to find the MIT representative. On the bridge, of course, is the infamous scene where the dimension portals are opening, and we have the appearance of Dr. Otto Octavius. Dr. Octopus. Basically raising hell and whooping Tom Holland Spider-Man's ass. Of course, we get the infamous "You're not Peter Parker" scene. And right before Doctor Strange saves Peter Parker, we see the Green Goblin appear. Strange tells him that these villains that have come to this universe need to not be captured and then sent back to their time, to their reality. which something Peter does in an awesome stealth suit. That stealth suit is awesome. The gold and black, but I'm biased to those kind of colors. And the scene where he fights Electro with Sandman, it's both awesome and a little hilarious that Sandman turns on Spider-Man so fast. I know he doesn't realize it's not the Peter Parker he knew that helped him against Venom and basically helped him try to turn over a new leaf. But it is such a weird, fast swap to be saving Peter Parker from Electro to wanting to beat the living hell out of him. And something with this movie I love is just like the talking, not even the action scenes, which are awesome, but just the scenes where he's talking to the people, like the villains are talking with each other. It's so freaking cool to see these characters that you probably think of after the Tobey Maguire Raimi trilogy ended, and after the Amazing Spider-Man universe was kind of cut short. A lot of people wondered how these characters would interact with each other. And it's so fun, and it's so perfectly written how they were. They got Dr. Octopus in the prison also. So far, they have Electro. Lizard, I believe, is caught. Sandman, basically all the members of the... I almost said Furious 5. Sinister 5, since there's no sixth member. Peter finds Norman Osborn after he gets a call from his aunt May that he's at her job. He says he wants to help. He wants to go back. He doesn't want to stay here. He wants to be cured. And I'll be honest, immediately I did not trust Norman Osborn. Look at him. Look at Norman Osborn from the first movie to now. That man cannot be trusted. And of course, it turned out he did not. He wasn't trustworthy. Peter then, of course, learns that Dr. Strange then tells Peter that they made their fate. They die fighting Spider-Man, which is true in some cases. Sandman doesn't die. Lizard, I think, died. I'm not sure. I didn't watch the Amazing Spider-Man movies, so please tell me if they did. Dr. Octopus and Green Goblin are the only ones that I know that died fighting. Didn't even die fighting Spider-Man. Goblin didn't. But Octopus sacrificed himself being a good guy, destroying his creation with the sun thing. Sandman left peacefully in the wind. And also, I'll just say this. I apologize I said this in another video, but Spider-Man 3, it is crapped on, but it's not as bad as many people remember it. When it's not emo Parker, it's a very good movie. Plus, the best scene in that movie is the birth of the Sandman. That scene is beautiful, even to this day. Of course, Peter being Peter, he tries to stop that and rehabilitate the villains. Try to save them. This leads to one of the coolest fight scenes in one of the best moments in this movie. I feel like this moment isn't as talked about as much as, of course, the biggest part of the movie. But it's the fight between Doctor Strange and Spider-Man in this other dimension where he controls this shit. That scene looked so freaking cool on the big screen. The amount of time that both the animation, the special effects, and the editing, the whole Marvel studio behind that movie had to probably do to just get that, like 5 minutes or something in that movie. Beautiful. And Peter actually beats Doctor Strange. He beats Doctor Strange. Arguably one of the strongest Avengers. People are going to comment on this, debating me on this. I don't care. In my opinion, Doctor Strange can be one of the most powerful characters in the Marvel Universe. He then gives them the choice to either go back and die or get rehabilitated, try to help. Also, I should mention this. Dr. Octopus, why he isn't just still crushing them, is because the Iron Spider suit absorbed onto his arms, which I thought was going to be cool and be an upgrade for his arms. But no, it's a trap because the Iron Spider suit is still linked to Peter. He now has control of the Dr. Octopus arms. That's fucking cool. So, because of course they can't go to Aunt May's apartment. Also, before I continue, I just want to say this. This is just a weird thing for me. Did anyone else find it weird that he never called her Aunt May? It was just always May. And this is another thing. I have no disrespect to the woman who played Aunt May. She's a great actor. She was good in those movies. But Aunt May is supposed to be, and you can look at the comics on this, is supposed to be an elderly woman, an older woman. She's not supposed to be someone that you would probably fantasize about. Look at that. That woman is gorgeous. That's not, and I get it, it's a mom's sister. But for the love of God, Aunt May should not be a character that has the appearance of fantasizing with. Okay? In fact, hold on. Pause real fast so I can explain myself. Look! This is Aunt May in the comic books. See? This is something the Sam Raimi movies did better than the MCU. Again, Aunt May should not look like a character you want to fantasize about. That is over with the rant. Okay. They can't go back to Aunt May's apartment, so they go to Happy's place where they take all the villains to try to help them. And also, just a thing, I couldn't get a smile off my face. Either I was smiling or my mouth was just wide open, just in shock of it, just absorbing everything that was happening. Sorry if you're hearing this and it's distracting you. My apologies. So of course we get a little montage. I don't even want to call them montage. Just a scene or two of Peter helping the villains. Of course, Electro is kind of the one that's kind of iffy on it because he feels the electricity coming from Stark's tech in the back. First one he helps is Dr. Otto Octavius, and you can feel the energy, the pain that's in him, and the relief to not hear the voices of the claws in his head anymore. Plus, this is really cool since the technology from Dr. Octopus's time in his universe compared to where they are now, technology is very much more advanced. So yeah, that definitely helps him. They help Electro by giving him a battery that could suck out the excess electricity that makes him Electro. Sandman, I can't remember how they helped Sandman. I apologize. Goblin, of course, working with Dr. Otto Octavius, who's now a good guy. He's trying... I never trusted... The second I saw a green fluid, I immediately knew that was just Goblin juice. That was the green. That wasn't an antidote. That was a superpower charge. And, of course, we get the classic scene where Norman Osborn turns on them. And I will say this, he gives a good speech. I won't spoil the whole speech, but I will kind of summarize it. He basically says that their powers aren't gifts. They aren't curses, they're gifts. And also, as I should mention this, the lizard didn't go with them. He stayed in the truck. And also, in every Spider-Man property, J. Jonah Jameson is a jackass. He's following Peter to this apartment, trying to get a story update, of course. And that's when all hell breaks loose. The second most action-packed moment in this movie, where Goblin, Electro, Sandman all raise hell in this apartment. I mean, for God's sake, Spider-Man Goblin power bombs him through the floor of the building. They also power slam him. They running power slam him. It's hilarious. I always love when wrestling moves like power bombs, power slams, they make it into movies because it just makes me giggle. Because non-wrestling fans probably don't see that. They just see him throwing him. But wrestling fans, we see a power bomb. And then comes the moment I couldn't believe happened. And here's where the spoiler kicks in. Aunt May dies. They kill her after a goblin bomb, or a pumpkin bomb, blows up on the base of the building. Peter, of course, tries to take the bullet and save her, but it doesn't work. She dies. And she's the one. I don't know if he had an Uncle Ben. Again, I'm sorry that I did not see all Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. And I will explain why after this. After Cringe of the Month. Or after this, whatever, you know what I mean. She gives him with great power comes great responsibility. Which I don't believe he ever heard. I don't believe he's ever heard that speech before. And it causes him just to break. The death of Aunt May, basically he thinks it's his fault. It just mentally destroys him. Meanwhile, with MJ and Ned, they're trying to help him. They're trying to find him. And Ned, who has Doctor Strange's ring thing, opens a portal. First off, I don't like the idea of Ned having magic. I don't know much about his character, but I can definitely tell he's a one annoying kind of character. I don't think he should have magic. I honest to God don't. I think MJ would have been a more decent idea, but even then, just kind of whack and weird. And of course, who comes out? Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man. I can just imagine on opening night, the red carpet premiere of this movie, this scene going, and the movie theater going ape shit, man. And again, just like Tom, I was not the biggest Andrew Garfield fan. I did not like the movies. And again, I'll explain why later. And it has a funny scene where they're trying to get convinced that he is Spider-Man. Him just hanging off the ceiling is enough. They have to have him crawl, and MJ's throwing bread rolls at him. It's so trying to get the spider sense to go off. It's so stupid. Eventually, he does prove that by climbing on the walls to get cobwebs and shit. Then, my man Tobey Maguire comes in. Oh, I was so pumped. I scream yes in the movie theater. My cousin says, "Be quiet." I look at him like, "Shut up, man! This is my childhood coming back to me in almost 20 years." Yeah, I'm hyped to see Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. And this is not just nostalgia talking. Tobey Maguire is my favorite Spider-Man. I know I've explained this in a past video on Spider-Man, but I'm going to explain it again after Cringe of the Month rant or review. I never call these review. Whatever. And of course they go to find Peter. Because being Peter Parker themselves, they know that when they are sad, they go to a high up place to try to just be alone. They find him, and Tom Holland, Peter Parker, is ready to send them back to die, essentially, the villains. And then Toby and Andrew both tell him their stories. Andrew telling him about how he couldn't save Gwen. And Toby telling him it was his fault that he felt it was his fault that Uncle Ben died. Telling them the great power comes with great responsibility. And then we get the most hype part of the movie. All three Spider-Men getting ready to fight the five of them. Well, the four of them, since Dr. Octopus is still a good guy. Technically good guy. He doesn't have the voices in his head. But before the fight, there comes two hilarious scenes I was really hoping for this movie. Because I remember in hype up for this movie, someone made the joke that Tom Holland and Andrew would be backed up against the wall, ready to fight, and they were out of web shooters. Toby looks at him and goes, "Wait, web shooters, what are those?" And they kind of do that, because they're in a lab. Before this fight scene starts, they're in a laboratory, and they're all interacting off each other, and then Ned presents Tom Peter with the web fluid. Toby goes, "Web fluid, what's that?" They both go, Tom goes, "Oh, it's for my web shooters." Shoots and the sound of the classic Spider-Man web coming out of Toby. Oh, it's funny. And they did exactly the right reaction. Andrew and all of them being confused as hell that it's coming out of him and not a web shooter. Because, honest to God, that's how I always thought Spider-Man was. And the reason is this. The only versions of Spider-Man I had ever seen up to these movies where they actually gave him a web shooter was... and I didn't read comic books, I'm sorry, was Spectacular Spider-Man and Spider-Man the Animated Series. And I know they both use web shooters, but the movie-wise, Tobey Maguire, where it just comes out of his wrists, is the very first thing I saw where he didn't need a web shooter. So I always thought as a kid, that's how it worked. He didn't need web shooters. So I was mad. Honest to God, I can't make this up. I was mad when I saw that Andrew Garfield Spider-Man had web shooters that didn't come out at his wrist, because I thought that wasn't Spider-Man. I thought that it actually came out of him. I was a kid. I apologize for my ignorance. After they first discover it, then they come to the bridge scene where all of them are all geared up, ready to go. And this is hilarious because all three of them are talking about it. And they talk about like the villains they faced and the shit they've gone through. It can so easily be interpreted as the older and younger brother and the middle kid being so disappointed in themselves, and the older and younger brother trying to pick up their middle bro. Oh, this movie is so perfectly action-packed written for the action scenes, but it knows when to be comedic. It has such perfect writing. And of course, that fight scene, beautiful. Again, I can't go into I don't want to go into detail, but there's also one more thing that Tom mentions, that he was part of the Avengers, and for not being part of the MCU, Andrew and Toby have no idea who they are. They have no idea who the Avengers are. Tom essentially says they need to work as a team, and he has the experience, so he'll lead them. And one awesome ass fight scene later with. I'll be honest, watching it now, I think... No. Not yet. No. After that, where the Statue of Liberty, because they put the freaking Captain America shield on the Statue of Liberty, falls and crumbles with Goblin. It's Green Goblin versus Tom Holland Spider-Man. And Tom is fucking wailing on him. And he's ready to kill him. Because he has stated previously, he wanted to kill Green Goblin for what he did to Aunt May. And to be perfectly honest, that is a realistic reaction. Someone takes away one of your only parental guardians. Basically, a mother figure to you. Not an aunt. Maybe that's why he doesn't call her Aunt May, but it's just still weird to me. Takes her away from you. You want to kill him back. But as they talk, Toby, and I love that it is Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, stops him from impaling him with the glider. Goes back to bite Tobey Maguire's Green Goblin, stabs him in the back, literally. Then, all hell's about to break loose even more, when the dimensions are cracking, because they've also, as said, they've cured the lizard, they basically have cured everyone. And there's even a little kind of joking reference to Miles Morales with Electro and Andrew. It's fucking... Again, I don't want to... That's the thing. I want to explain it, but I don't want to give these little details away. So when you watch the movie, because I hope you've clicked off by now, and if you have watching this so far, I hate that you've watched this unless you've seen the movie and you're watching my god-awful review of it. Afterwards, all the dimensions of who knows Peter Parker's Spider-Man, all the characters are coming up. There's references to the Scorpion, who I would have loved to see in the MCU. The Rhino from Amazing Spider-Man. I think it was Amazing Spider... No, it wasn't. It was earlier in... I think it was Homecoming? I'm not sure. Either was Tom Holland, MCU Spider-Man, or Amazing Spider-Man. Whatever. Rhino. Apparently someone saw Kraven the Hunter and Black Cat. Side note again. Black Cat X Spider-Man is one of the best ships of Spider-Man I've ever seen. And I know that she's always written to just be like the Black Cat to Batman kind of thing, where she flirts with him, but she doesn't want to be in a relationship with him under the mask. This is just a side thing. That's why I would have loved it if in the animated series Spider-Man, Peter Parker Spider-Man, and Felicia Hardy Black Cat got together. They just would have been perfect. They kind of already knew who each other were from under the mask. Peter Parker already had a crush and an interest in Felicia Hardy. I don't know, Felicia kind of looked like she had an interest in him until fucking Michael Morbius. Another side note, I am hyped to see Morbius. That movie looks awesome, man. So many characters knew who Peter Parker is as Spider-Man. So Peter decided to make the ultimate sacrifice. Wants Doctor Strange to cast another spell, but instead of forgetting who Spider-Man is, he wants him to cast a spell to where everyone around the world forgets who Peter Parker is. Ultimate sacrifice. He says his final goodbyes to MJ and Ned. An emotional scene, and the spell is cast. The villains are sent. Toby, Andrew, Goblin. Sandman, Electro, Lizard, or Connors, and Max, they're all sent home. And Peter doesn't exist anymore. He's just another face in the crowd without a name. He even gets ready to he even wrote a letter preparing, because of something that was said early in the movie, to tell MJ and Ned who he is. But seeing where their lives are, they're going to MIT, they're got into the college. He doesn't, because he knows it's better. It's safer for them. He goes to his Aunt May, who doesn't even have loving aunt because her nephew doesn't exist anymore. No one knows him. He's invisible, essentially. Of course, he has the Lego, I didn't watch Palpatine, I believe, that Ned had when they met, I believe, or whatever, in the movies. And then it ends with Peter in a rundown apartment that kind of reminds me of the apartment, a cleaner version of the apartment that Toby had in the second Spider-Man movie, I believe. Or maybe the third. But if I had to venture a guess, I don't think it's just a random apartment. I think it is the apartment that he had with Aunt May. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just a random rundown apartment. I don't know. But then comes this scene. The scene where, in a new spider suit that he sewed together and made, goes off to save the world. Back to what he does, because he's just Spider-Man now. There's no Peter Parker. It's just technically Spider-Man. And here's my thing. First off, Marvel, please keep this new suit the permanent suit. No more new suits. This is the suit, man. And two, I truly believe that there should have been a certain song that played in the end of this movie. Whether it be the end credits. No, actually, end credits, I had a better idea for you guys. For the last few scenes of this movie, where he's jumping, he's swinging to save people as he does as Spider-Man. Hero by Nickelback should have played. And if you're asking me why, well, what movie do you associate that song with? What movie do you think of? Spider-Man 2002. And for the end of the movie, I think like a somber version of the Spider-Man theme should have been playing. Then, of course, came the first credit scene, where it's Venom who's looking for Spider-Man. And people have thought, how does Venom know who Spider-Man is? The only symbiote to ever make contact with a Spider-Man was Spider-Man 3. Now, do I believe this is going to connect to the Sam Raimi universe? Maybe, because it is Marvel, and technically now that trilogy and those double movies are part of the MCU. But I don't know. Then came the actual end credit scene, the second one, where it wasn't anything to do with Spider-Man, it was to hype up the new Doctor Strange movie. I'll be honest, and I know some people might be shocked, I have not seen the first Doctor Strange movie. I never saw it. Because here's my thing, I didn't watch all 27 MCU movies. I watched the movies that interested me. Okay? I say this about Thor. I love Thor. He's one of my favorite Marvel characters. But for some reason, I can't get into his standalone movies. I just can't. I apologize, but I just personally can't. Now, to explain myself with Tom Holland and Andrew Garfield, why I didn't get into them. Andrew, it's very simple why I didn't get into The Amazing Spider-Man. I'll take you back to 2007, when Spider-Man 3 had come out. I was 7 years old. I had just watched the movie on DVD. So maybe I was 8. I don't know. I was a kid. A very little kid. Cut to 2012, I believe, where The Amazing Spider-Man comes out. I am still on the hype train and nostalgia. And nostalgia's not just... It was blocking me, but I have a better reason for it now. Back then, I wasn't ready for a new version of Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire would forever be my Spider-Man. Looking at it now, it's the same with Tom. Great actors, perform Spider-Man greatly. I just couldn't get into them. Simple as that. You say, oh, Jordan, this is the same reason you don't like Captain Marvel. No, I don't like Captain Marvel because she's fucking overrated. Just my thing. You can come after me all you want. In my opinion, Captain Marvel is an overrated character. And overpowered. She's built like a fucking god. Not getting into that. This is about Spider-Man. Not that overrated piece of shit. Oh, I can see some people wanting my death on that. I don't care. Tom, I'll say this, because I remember someone saying this. None of his movies felt Spider-Man movies, because he always had someone to help out, mainly Iron Man. He always had Iron Man helping him out. This movie, he had no one. Yes, he had Doctor Strange, but Doctor Strange didn't help him. He opened the door. He gave him a handshake. He did not help in any way in the climax of that movie until the final spell. This is a full Spider-Man movie. No Avenger was helping him. Toby, 1, did not have the Avengers on his side. 2, did not have any technology. 3, even his love interests, Mary Jane, didn't help him because she was useless. Like Gwen Stacy helped Andrew and Tom, their versions of Peter Parker and Spider-Man, always had a crew or some people helping him out. Tobey Maguire had himself, and himself only. That, and I'll say this, when it comes to like atmosphere, you can rewatch these if you don't believe me. The Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans were sometimes the darker of them. They had the more shadowy scenes, the more darker-esque style. If you don't believe me, please go watch some scenes back. Mainly the fights with Goblin, Octopus, and even Venom and Sandman. So yeah, that has been Cringe of the Month. They're probably the longest Cringe of the Month, next to the live reaction I did for the Loud House movie. Hope you enjoy, and I hope that if you haven't seen this movie, 1, go watch it before you watch this whole video, and 2, my God, I cannot recommend. If you watch the videos I made before and after seeing the movie with my aunt and my cousins, I cannot recommend a Spider-Man movie more. This movie was fucking awesome! Anyway, see you in the next one, guys. I don't know what the fuck I just did. Sorry. I think I was planning to hit the button, so later.